You're listening to the Shaughnessy Group podcast, insights on buying, selling, and growing Canadian businesses in the lower middle market. Let's begin.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Thank you for taking the time to join us.
It's great to be here.
Today we're opening the file on something that, well, it's a vulnerability that haunts a lot of private businesses. We're talking about that moment the rug is just pulled out from under you. You lose a founder, a key executive, someone who just leaves.
Right. And it could be for any reason. An unexpected illness. Or maybe they just get an offer that's too good to pass up.
And suddenly the business is thrown into a panic. It's what you would call a cautionary tale.
It really is. It's the business equivalent of a sudden cardiac arrest. You see this scramble happen, especially in family-owned companies, where a crucial piece of the whole puzzle is just gone.
That scramble is exactly what we're digging into. People often see it as just bad luck, but our source material today suggests it's a lot more controllable than that.
It is. So our mission today is to do a deep dive into succession and business transition planning imperatives.
Okay, and we're focusing on two things, right? First, why do so many businesses ignore this until it's a full-blown crisis?
And second, and this is the most important part, what concrete steps can you take right now to mitigate that risk? We're talking funded strategic steps.
Exactly. We're going to move past the generic advice and really focus on core insights, on practical solutions so you can walk away from this with the tools to handle this before it ever becomes chaos.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's start with the cost of doing nothing. The reality of this known vulnerability.
Well, the sources are crystal clear on this. That moment of scrambling, it's almost never just bad luck.
It's a choice, in a way.
It is. It happens, and I'm quoting here, in the absence of appropriate planning. It's a failure to fix a systemic weakness. You knew that key person wasn't going to be there forever, but you failed to build a bridge for when they were gone.
And the data that supports this is truly sobering, especially when you look at family businesses.
Oh, absolutely.
The material we looked at highlights that less than a third of family-owned businesses actually survive into the second generation.
Less than a third. Think about that. That's a massive failure rate for organizations that are literally built on the idea of legacy.
So what's the direct cause?
The sources link that low survival rate directly to a lack of planning in two very distinct areas. And it's important to understand the difference.
Okay.
First, you have leadership succession. That's pretty straightforward. It's about who's going to run the business day to day, who's the next CEO.
The functional management role.
Precisely. But the second part, which is often the much harder piece of the puzzle, is ownership business transition planning.
So not just who runs it, but who owns it.
Exactly. Who gets the shares? How do you handle evaluation? How does the original founder get their money out? Monetize their entire life's work.
And I imagine a lot of founders just focus on finding a good leader and completely forget about the ownership structure.
They do. And that's a far more complex legal and, frankly, emotional issue.
Yeah.
Which gets to the heart of why this fails, even though, as the source points out, succession planning is not a novel concept. We know how to do this stuff.
So the failure isn't that we don't have the tools, it's something else. Is it emotional? Is it just the founder avoiding planning for their own exit?
I think that's a huge part of what the material suggests. The solutions are there, but the delay is often rooted in what you might call founder syndrome.
The ego barrier.
Yes. Planning for your own succession means you have to confront your own mortality. You have to accept that the business might actually thrive without you. That requires a level of humility that can be, pretty scarce among successful entrepreneurs.
But the result of that delay is that 2/3 failure rate.
That's the sad outcome.
Okay, that sets the stage perfectly. So let's broaden the scope. Is succession planning really just for the founder or the CEO?
No, absolutely not. And this is a really strong point in the sources. Key employees throughout the entire organization need a plan for their departure. It's not just the person at the very top.
So we're talking about each key executive and members of the C-suite.
That's the mandate. Every single one.
Okay, so walk me through a scenario. Losing my CEO, I get it. That's a massive problem. But what if I lose my CFO, my chief financial officer? How big of a deal is that really?
Losing a CFO can be just as paralyzing. Maybe even more so in the short term. The CEO has the vision, sure, but the CFO controls the cash, the banking relationships, the complex tax structures.
All the plumbing.
All the critical plumbing. If they vanish, you could immediately lose access to financial data. You could disrupt your credit lines. You could even fail to meet reporting deadlines. And that means penalties, or in the worst case, insolvency.
So succession planning isn't just about leadership, it's really a comprehensive business continuity plan.
That's the perfect way to put it. It has to cover every role whose sudden absence would cause, irreparable harm.
So if we accept that it needs to be this broad, covering the whole C-suite, what are the first steps? Where does a company even begin this process?
It starts with one thing, beginning the conversation early. This cannot be a last-minute scramble.
And who needs to be in that conversation?
A wide circle of stakeholders. You need shareholders, partners, the board, definitely the head of human resources, all the key execs, and your outside advisors, your CPA, your legal counsel.
That sounds like a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Doesn't that slow the whole thing down?
It can, but the point of involving them early is to get buy-in. You do that to prevent really painful, costly disagreements later on.
Okay, so you get everyone talking. What's next?
Then the logical steps follow. You identify potential successors, either internal people you can develop or someone you'll need to hire from outside. And then, and this is critical, you have to figure out the right strategy to fund the plan.
Right, because having the perfect person lined up doesn't help if you can't afford to make the transition happen.
Exactly. If you have the successor but no money to execute the transfer of ownership, the whole plan just falls apart.
That brings us perfectly to the solutions. We've talked about the problem, the scope. Let's get into the practical tools that reduce financial risk and fund these transitions. First up, key person insurance.
Key person insurance is your immediate firewall. It's an effective way to protect the business from the financial shock of losing a key person, a partner, an owner, due to death or a serious illness. It's a financial buffer.
And how does that buffer actually work? Is it just to pay for a headhunter to find a replacement?
It's much broader than that. The payout gives the company stability. You can use it to cover temporary operational costs. You can use it to make up for lost business while you're training the new person. Or, and this is really important, you can use it to stabilize your credit lines, to show your lenders you have liquidity, even with a loss.
And the appeal here is that it's a manageable cost. It's not some massive capital expense.
Exactly. The source makes a point to say these policies can be funded right from the company's ongoing cash flow. And when you look at the big picture, it is inexpensive in comparison to the value they bring to the organization. It's just basic, non-negotiable risk management.
Okay, so insurance handles the unexpected risk. But what about the proactive side? How do you retain that key talent? How do you stop them from taking that more compelling opportunity and blowing up your continuity plan?
For retention, the source points heavily towards long-term performance-based compensation plans.
So you're tying their financial future directly to the company's success.
You're aligning their incentives with the long-term growth of the business. You're giving them a powerful reason to stick around and create value.
I get the incentive part, but for a private company that's trying to conserve cash, that sounds like a huge liability down the road. How do you structure these so they require no immediate cash, like the source says?
This is really the aha moment for a lot of business leaders. The goal is to pay a premium only on the value that the executive helps create.
Okay.
So these plans are usually funded from the company's treasury through things like stock options, phantom stock, or stock appreciation rights, or SARs.
Let's break that down. A phantom stock plan, for example. How does that work without the company having to actually give away shares or cash right now?
Phantom stock is basically a promise. The company grants the executive the right to a cash payment in the future, and that payment is equal to the value of a certain number of shares.
So you're not diluting ownership for current shareholders.
Right, and there's no immediate cash outflow. But the real insight here, especially for a private company, is that the plan is often designed to measure growth above its current valuation.
Ah, so you're only paying them on the upside they create.
Exactly. You're only paying the executive a portion of the growth in the value of the business above its current valuation. The company only pays out if that executive has successfully made the entire pie bigger.
That's a brilliant way to align incentives and manage cash. But doesn't adding phantom stock or SARs, doesn't that add a lot of complexity? Taxes, regulations, that sort of thing.
Oh, it absolutely does. And that's why you have to involve your external advisors early on. You need to structure these correctly for tax purposes. But that complexity is a manageable cost. It's nothing compared to the catastrophic loss of value when your key talent walks out the door.
Right. Okay, let's move to the biggest structural solution, private equity. This is usually seen as a way to sell your company entirely. But how does the source position PE as a tool for transition planning?
PE is described as a great strategy for shareholders to de-risk their investments,
Yeah.
and plan for an orderly exit. But the key is, it doesn't have to be a full, immediate sale.
It's more of a partnership.
It is. It's a partnership that brings in capital and expertise, but also, and this is crucial, it brings optionality.
And how does that partnership give the owner the flexibility they need for succession?
Well, a private equity fund comes in as a financial partner. This lets the current owner take some chips off the table, sell part of their stake to de-risk their personal finances while they continue to lead the company. And now they're often growing it using other people's money.
So the owner gets some liquidity, they keep control, but now they have a partner who's probably pushing them to formalize that succession plan.
Precisely. And that partnership creates the perfect structure for the other path, the management buyout, or MBO.
Can you explain that? How does PE help an internal successor, say a COO who wants to take over but doesn't have millions in the bank?
This is where PE can be transformative. In an MBO, the PE firm provides the majority of the capital and the financial structure for the deal. This lets the internal management team, the existing C-suite, acquire a big piece of equity and become the new owners without having to raise all that money themselves.
So the PE firm is basically bankrolling the next generation of leaders.
In a way, yes. They use their financial muscle and their operational guidance to let the next generation transition seamlessly into ownership. It's a way to fund the transition internally with structured finance.
That really closes the loop. We've gone from the problem, that chaotic scramble, all the way to these comprehensive solutions: insurance, compensation, and strategic PE partnerships.
And if we can just circle back to that feeling of urgency, I do want to reiterate the encouraging note from the sources. If your business doesn't have a proper succession plan today, the good news is this: you still have time.
That is the crucial encouragement. But if you're hearing this, the unspoken follow-up is,
But your time is now.
this brings up a final question for me, and it connects back to what we said at the very beginning about those failure rates. Given that we understand this problem so well, and the solutions are available, they're often inexpensive, why do 2/3 of family businesses still fail this test?
It takes us right back to that psychological dimension, doesn't it? The tools exist. The willingness to use them often doesn't.
So we'll leave you, the leader who might be listening, with this provocative thought. What emotional or internal barriers, maybe it's ego, maybe it's procrastination, maybe it's just fear of letting go, what's preventing action on a known vulnerability in your own organization? It seems like addressing the transition plan might have to start with self-reflection, not just spreadsheets.
So to summarize the imperatives from today: plan early, plan broadly. That means your whole C-suite, not just the founder, and actively use these proven funding tools: key person insurance, performance compensation, and private equity.
And we want to give our sincere thanks to the Shaughnessy Group for providing the essential insights and the data that really form the foundation of this deep dive.
You can find a lot more resources from them: newsletters, events, a free content library by visiting their website.
That website is shaughnessy.group. Again, that's shaughnessy.group.
Thank you for trusting us to guide you through this really critical material.
We hope you continue your deep dive journey with us next time. Take care.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not professional advice. Consult qualified advisors for your specific situation.